So, Mike, we do want to get your thoughts on the Activision deal, but I thought maybe it's best to ground it in some of the updates. So,
Once.
yeah, sure. So, yes, like as we know, Microsoft has put a deal in for $68.7 billion to acquire Activision. And there's been two major updates since then, since we did the pod midweek. So, I'll just read it out. So, Phil Spencer posted during the week, and his only post since the acquisition. Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honour all existing arrangements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry and we value our relationship. Interesting.
No, preemptive antitrust
Maybe.
messaging in there, huh?
But I do want to go to the GQ article he did recently, which, now this is Bethesda, ZeniMax, a fully acquired part of the Microsoft family. Very vague language, very similar to what they're doing with Activision Blizzard. And just to sort of turn to his quote around, what's going on with Game Pass and Elder Scrolls 6. And he's like, I'm not about punishing any other platform. Like, I fundamentally believe all the platforms can continue to grow. But in order to be on Xbox, I want us to be able to bring the full complete package of what we have. And that would be true when I think about Elder Scrolls 6. That would be true when I think about any other of our franchises. So I don't know. I feel like he's kind of having it both ways. But Mike, I want to get your thoughts on the acquisition. Do you think these things will be exclusive? Everyone feels to be flipping that Call of Duty is not going to be exclusive anymore. I find that dubious in the extreme.
I don't think it's gonna be an exclusive. I think, wow, if it is an exclusive, that's one way to get a bunch more people onto Game Pass. But I'm talking shit here because I have no idea what he's thinking.
Yeah,
none of us do.
None of us do.
An exclusive, obviously. I don't think it's necessarily a bad acquisition. I mean, we know we haven't covered it as a huge news piece, I don't think, but we know Activision's been in a bit of shit because of what Bobby's been doing mostly, and the way he's been running things. So it almost feels like a really expensive bailout to some extent. I don't know what. Look, in the end, they bought the IP, right? They bought the rights to the IP of those games more than anything else, and the talent that's behind the studio. They obviously didn't buy the CEO or any of that kind of very, very top-end management, I'd imagine. But they bought the IP, and what they're going to do with that IP, I have no freaking idea. I think they're going to probably segregate and have some stuff that will be exclusives, just like what they did with Bethesda. And some stuff that I think they'll probably retain because they're still making too much money on PlayStation not to have it. I think that message that he sent out is probably twofold. Number one, I do actually think there's an element of worrying about antitrust because I think the regulators, correct me if I'm wrong, still have to let the deal go through.
Oh yeah.
And there is an element of shit. Do they now have a really big monopoly on some huge studios here? I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for consumers in that sense. I don't. It's weird. I maybe on a slightly small tangent. I have a pretty love-hate relationship with Activision Blizzard, to the extent that I think I mostly hate the company.
You vetoed all their games.
I completely, yeah. I boycotted every single one of their recent games, and that's purely from a just a personal perspective. It's not because I hate Bobby or anything like that. It's because when I look at the list of games that they make, basically every single game, bar I can't think of a single one, is intentionally designed to get people hooked, to get people to purchase shit through microtransactions, whether it's their mobile section or whether it's stuff like COD, whether it's any of the other shooters that they have, whether it's Diablo. It's the same basic principle of getting people to repeat their game over and over again. They don't release games like, I don't know, even Assassin's Creed, where you can go through the journey, experience the game, spend a whole bunch of hours in it. Yes, there's some microtransactions, but then you can kind of move on with your life.
I'm not sure if
Every
I agree
single
with that,
game
though.
that they have is designed for you to keep playing and playing and playing.
But then
Well,
what
give me an
about Crash
example where they haven't.
4, Crash Nitro Racing?
But what I'm saying is those are probably by far in the minority of what they tried to do, and the studios that Activision themselves gobbled up. Because you got to think they gobbled up Blizzard, that effectively nowadays is Diablo
Overwatch.
and Overwatch, two games that are very, very repetitive in their nature, that are reliant on people playing the same stuff over and over again. And 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 then they bought out a bunch of mobile studios, I think, as well, that relied on the same thing. So anyway, that aside, to me as a studio, I'm not a fan of the principle behind the studio and what their tactics were in terms of the games that they focused on churning out. They don't, really focus on churning out purely single player experiences for the sake of the enjoyment of the game. Their tactic was always clearly get people hooked on the game. So I don't know what to make of that. I think, look, I'm not like, oh, that's it, I'm boycotting Microsoft now because of something like that. I don't think like that. I just had,
Doesn't it extend? Are you going to keep boycotting? It doesn't extend because
they do a lot of other IPs that are clearly not designed to just waste people's time, in my opinion.
So once they become part of Xbox, are you going to revisit your boycott then?
No, I still wouldn't play those games. I wouldn't play those franchises.
Well, even if it was like Crash 5?
No, I'll play probably something like Crash 5, yeah.
Oh, so you're just basically talking about COD.
But that's it. I'm talking,
no,
I'm talking about everything but, I guess, Crash 5, because every single other IP that they have that I remember, and I'm sure there's maybe some more esoteric games that I'm not thinking of, but all the major IPs that Activision and Blizzard have, to me, have the same principle behind them. And I've been boycotting them for a while now because of that. They just don't respect people's time. So yeah, look, I don't think it's necessarily from a Microsoft perspective. I think is it a good investment? That's 68.7 billion US dollars, which is like close to 100 billion Australian dollars. 100 billion. That's a freaking insane amount of money on those IPs. And I know they're major IPs that are, ranking in a lot of money that they see as continuously making money, and they're not stupid. I mean, they made good money out of Minecraft, for example, even though that was actually a bargain at the time when you think about it retrospectively.
It was like 2.5 or 2
something like
billion?
that. Yeah, it was like 2 point something. So like it was 1/50th of this amount. Yeah. But they do. I mean, the player base of COD is massive. The player base of Diablo is massive. The player base of
World of
Warcraft is massive. All those IPs have huge player bases, and they have the kind of player bases that are likely to keep being hooked on those games.
Candy Crush?
I've got Candy Crush, yep. I've got friends who have spent over 1,000 hours on games like Overwatch, and they keep playing and playing and playing. And Microsoft knows those people will be around, and those, not just the people that are already into those IPs, but future generations. They're winners. Those games, they make the bucks. I think at least 3 of them are multi-billion-dollar IPs.
Oh yeah. Even World of Warcraft, I did the numbers the other day. It's like $1 billion of revenue each year.
Yeah.
Just from subscriptions.
Just
like
for,
that
exactly,
one subscription. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I think it's a smart enough move from Microsoft. I don't know that I didn't do the number crunching myself to kind of see what, but they're not idiots, obviously. They know what they're doing, and I think they probably paid what they obviously imagine is a pretty good price for it, given the current circumstances of what's happening with Activision and Blizzard. Yeah.
And Sweeney, just like on the updates during the week, do you think this changes your mind on COD? Like, let's be real, it's mostly about COD exclusivity.
This just cements my opinion even further, because the wording around this is existing contracts.
Yeah.
Desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Which is Warzone. That's Warzone to me. Like, that is the easiest out possible to say. It's Warzone. Like, we were always considering keeping Warzone on PlayStation, but Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 or whatever the next one is,
it's about 7 or 8 now,
or whatever. Like, no, but I'm saying, like, that's rumored to be the next one, but that one probably won't be. But the one after will be like, well, the campaign is exclusive to Xbox, but the multiplayer, we're going to roll that into Warzone. Like, to me, Warzone, it doesn't change at all. That I think that will stay, even if they change that to a new engine in 4 or 5 years' time. Warzone will stay multi-platform, whilst Call of Duty as a campaign will be Xbox exclusive.
It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, like, and I think the other element to it is as well. It's like our desire is to have Call of Duty on PlayStation. So we would love if you just allowed our app on your PlayStation Store. Just a little app called Game Pass. It's no big problem.
So I'm just going to say this is all assuming Game Pass isn't on PlayStation. If Game Pass hits PlayStation, then who knows what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I'm working on the assumption that it won't be, but if it does, then it changes everything.
Yeah, I don't think it will ever be. I think
the one thing I'll say about this is that from a purely consumer perspective, it sucks. Because it sucks that people don't have a choice. It sucks that people can't play these games just because they have the wrong platform, and now they have to invest another $750 getting another console, which they probably don't need because they don't really want to play all those other games on it. So it sucks from that perspective, absolutely. From the perspective of maybe some of those people will go out and do something else with their lives, I think it's fucking fantastic. It's a good opportunity to give up COD, give up all those games, and do something else with your life. So maybe it's not a bad thing. I don't know. We'll see.
I'll leave that as the final word on that.
Yeah, and if you want to check our final thoughts, Integots and mine, we both think it's a bad idea, or it's a bad thing. Check out the final thoughts section specifically of our episode 68.7.
Yeah, we've got all the time codes in there, so you can skip the 2 hours of conversation. Just give me a second.
Yeah, that was like at the 1.5 hour mark of it.
It was, yeah.
Wow.
All right, let's jump into the real new news of the week.